All right. And I'm only recording, so I'll upload it and send you the link so that like if you have any specific questions, you'll be able to reference back and get those answers.
Okay, thank
So
you.
normally I start with a little PowerPoint presentation, and it kind of just talks about the value of why this website has the value that it has. It goes through some like math equations, just showing like how turnover rate, when it's lower, it's going to get you a lower return, but when the numbers are higher for the turnover rate, it's going to get you a much higher return for less work. You're going to have to do like a third of the work and get double the results. So do you want to see that short little presentation, or do you want to just jump right into the website? I feel like I've talked to you enough about this website. You have a level of familiarity that we can just jump right in.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. We can jump right in.
Okay. All right. And I know your time is valuable, so I just want to make the most of this hour.
It's okay. No,
All right.
I appreciate you.
Of course, of course. So, all right, here we are. This is Supreme Title Toolbox. I know it says a whole mess of stuff up here, but if you go to supremetitlettoolbox.com, that is also how you can get here. I'm going to add an account for you when we finish, and you'll get a welcome email from this, like from Benutech or Title Toolbox, it'll say at the top. So it won't come from me, it'll come from the website. So you just go in that welcome email and click the link, and you'll be able to access your account.
Okay.
So when you open this up, you have just a very simple menu at the top. It's not anything overwhelming. So you have property search, which is a direct single property search. You have the farming tab, the statistics tab, a tab for your buyer cost estimate that gets you directly there. And then you have a little drop down over here for single address. So let's start over here with the single address, just so I can show you how quickly you can get really easy numbers, especially because we're looking on your end for more like the data side of things. That's what you were looking for. So let's say you had a property that was already listed with you and you were hosting an open house and you
Hmm.
wanted to invite the neighbors in that general area, call it like a nosy neighbors brokers or a nosy neighbors open house. So do you have an address you want me to use, like a listing,
Sure.
or your address, whichever, or I can
All
use
right.
mine. I have plenty of examples in my bank here.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. 3672 Whimsical Circle.
There it is.
Yeah.
All right. So immediately when I put the address in, it's just going to drop a pin on there. And right away, it gives me just some cursory information that is all public record. So the owner name, the type of residence. So it's residential single family residence, the year it was built, county, the APN number, square footage. And then sometimes it does this weirdness with the bed bath and it says 0 and 0, even though it's not. That's just some like discrepancy in the public record, something that was recorded weirdly on Property Appraiser.
Mhm.
They can't control that. They can only pull what they can pull. So when you come down here to the drop down, so that's just an automatic thing that it drops this pin, and you can generate a report right here, or you can generate a report here. So you have two quick links for that. And there are different kinds of reports. So we'll go over that kind of toward the end. I'll show you the profile with comps, which is my favorite report. And then you can also get a detailed view. So when you hit detailed view, you also have that right here. That's going to show you, the Google Street View. That's going to show you the aerial view, and it's going to give you a little bit more detail on the property. But what we're going to do is go back to our example where you're hosting this Nosy Neighbors open house, and I'm going to hit nearby neighbors. So based off of this address, it's asking me what limit I want to set. So how many neighbors am I trying to pull? Am I trying to pull 10 or am I trying to pull 100? I think I'm going to just make it 100 for the sake of our example here. So that's all it's asking you right here is set a limit for how many search results you want to get from the nearby neighbors. So this is saying with the total 2,300, and it'll show you right up here too. So the total count within this shadowed area, this radius right here, all the properties within there, there's 2,300 properties. And then it's saying we put a limit of 100 properties. So that's what these results are going to be. So out of 2,300, we're looking at the top 100 that are closest to the property
Mhm.
that we searched. Okay. So And you can always see, always, I love to draw people's attention to this like multiple times during this training, because this is where you can see a summary of your filters. Like if you're ever wondering, oh, what filters do I have on there? This is it. So right now our filters are within this radius, just like we're seeing in the state of Florida, in the county of Brevard, and we're pulling 3 different property types. So this is single family residences, this is residential condominiums, and then this is residential townhomes. Okay, so all 3 of those properties are being pulled. And then, of course, we talked about we have our limit of 100 records. So this was all free. Now I have this information about these people in this neighborhood. I can definitely go drop some mailers in their mailboxes as far as inviting them to my nosy neighbor's open house, right? But now take a look at what else you're looking at. Like you're looking at when these people bought this home in this year for this amount. So all of this information right here is regarding this owner, the current owner. So right now, and then this is your listing, right? So the current owner is Janet Madden, who bought it in 2020 for 342 and some change. And then that's the address. And then when you go over this way, you do get a little bit more like nitty gritty kind of numbers and codes and stuff, like as far as the APN number and the tract. So you get the subdivision information. But then you also get owner versus non-owner occupied, which is great. So owner versus non-owner is all the way to the right, or you can just look at the color code right here. So green is owner occupied and blue is non-owner occupied. Take that with a grain of salt, because when they say owner occupied versus non-owner occupied, they're using that based off an assumption using the mailing address. So what it's really saying is, for this one where it's non-owner occupied, it's saying that the mailing address is different than the property address. But that could be, so right, this one's saying they're in Georgia, this one's Pennsylvania. You know, sometimes though, there's going to be like this one says non-owner occupied, it's blue, but their mail state is Florida, and it's an LLC. So, you know, sometimes people will associate their business, you know, with a different address. It'll be like an office address. So it might be owner occupied, but they just have their records with their LLC address, which might be an office. So that's why I'm saying take it with a grain of salt. And then especially with like condos as well, you know, a lot of people that live in condos get PO boxes for their mail. So that might also cause it to show non-owner occupied. So you can always look deeper into it, but it does give you a really solid idea of who the investors are in the area for sure. So just with this free information, you have a lot of data about the surrounding area. I mean, you have the amount, like you get an idea of the amount of equity that certain people are sitting on. I mean, this person who bought before COVID, like they're sitting on a couple $100,000 worth of equity. Do they know that? You know, these are those little opportunities. I know you said you're not a door knocker and you're not a cold caller, but like, why wouldn't you send something in the mail to that guy? Talk
Yeah.
about like, do you know your equity, or like sending him an email with remember there were those shareable calculators that I showed you in the Supreme Agent One app. You
Yes.
could send him, there's one that says, how much equity do you have? And you could just say, hey, here, check this link out. I'm not sure if you know the amount of equity you're sitting on, but you could kind of, start your calculations right there. And then we could talk about it if that's something you're comfortable with. You know, like just little options, just so you could reach out to these people. Certain people like the 2023s or the 2022s might have like a really high interest rate. So that could be something, if you wanted to like partner up with a lender that you're friends with, you could like kind of go in a refinance direction. So you have like a lot of different options with this list, and you just pulled it in 2 seconds by putting an address up here and hitting nearby neighbors. And it was that easy.
That's nice.
Right? Cool.
Yeah.
So that was just a really quick example. I'm going to go over to the farming tab now, unless you have any questions here. I'm going to go over it in much more detail, but I wanted to show you just how quickly you can pull like quick information like that. So we good? I'm going to move.
Yeah, we're
All right.
good.
So in between everything, super important, clear your search in between anything that you're doing. So I cleared my search, and now I'm going to go into my farming tab. So under farming, we have a couple of different ways of searching, and then there's different folders where your saved information is stored. So the types of searches, you have a radius search, which is a perfect circle around the property, the one that we were just looking at. Then you have a boundary search. So a boundary search is going to let you kind of draw your own boundary around the streets or around, you know, not to include all of this, you know, preserve, and, you know, you want to get more residential. That's like probably a better way to go. I like to use the boundary search for beachside because I can draw really long strip. Same thing with like Merritt Island. I use this long strip that I kind of draw down. And then an area search is the only search where you're just putting in the information manually and you're not interacting with this map. So these two, you're interacting with the map. This one, you're just like putting in a zip code and a city, and you can put like street names and stuff, and it's more of a manual input. Then you have your clear search, which we know is important. We want to use it every time. Then our saved farms are in here. So something that is on that presentation I was talking about that I definitely want to touch on, that is very, very cool about this website. This website is the only lead source that stores your farms on the website. And what that does is it actually updates every single week. So every week, the saved farm will comb the clerk of courts and comb the property appraiser's website. And if there's been any transfers of ownership or any new documents that have been recorded, it's going to feed those in. And if it's been, you know, transfer of ownership, it's going to take it off your list, take it off your farm. And then any new properties that are eligible are going to be added to your farm. So if you save them on here and keep looking at them weekly, you know that no matter what, you're looking at the most updated information on that farm, as opposed to exporting it, right? When you export a list into a spreadsheet, it's just static. It's just sitting there and it's not going to update itself. But if you do it from here, if you save it in here, it's going to update constantly, which is very cool. So that's where the saved farms are. And then you have saved searches. So you can save the search criteria without saving the farm. So it's more about saving like the filters that you chose. And then this one is very self-explanatory, saved net sheets. And then you can upload your own documents in here as well. You can upload CRMs, you can upload net sheets, you can upload farms right here. All right, so we're gonna start with a radius search. And I'll just use Tracy's address for right now because we used yours. Sorry, Atlantic. Oh my God, I can't type today. There we go. All right, Luce. All right, relax. Well, I'm on with Romina and Mira. I keep forgetting your name today.
I was about to say, like, I mean,
like
you
the
don't
third
exist
time.
anymore. Like,
I'm sorry.
we've been best friends for 4 years,
Sorry.
and she just forgets. It's fine.
There's a lot of names to keep up with, okay?
I'm the only one who's camera. Come on.
All right. So as you can see, as soon as I searched her address and I selected it, it dropped up my pin on the address. So I have my own pin. You can see it's like kind of attached to my mouse. So I'm going to just drop that on the address as well. And now that dropped my radius. So now I can come back out a little bit. And as you can see, this one is beachside. So I mentioned that like I like to use the boundary search for beachside because then I would be able to draw maybe from O'Galley like down to Paradise, and I could have like a really nice square just covering the land. But this is fine too. I mean, it's not the worst. So right now this is showing us that it kind of has a radius of this defaulted amount, but I can come right in here and I can pull it out by a mile. When I do that, I can grab it and pull it in. So now it's like covering more of the land instead of just like having half of it in the ocean where there's no properties. So I'm still within, I still have the home in the radius. So that's all that matters. I wouldn't want to pull it down here because then the address that I searched is like outside of the radius. But as long as it's in there, it's cool if you move it around a little bit. So once I have the radius set where I want it to be, green always means go. Green on this website either means money or it means go. So, so right now, green means go, and we have 2 green buttons. So I always get the count first. Getting the count means show me my totals. Like I'm going to get the count for the full amount of total properties that are within the radius. I'm not adding any filters yet. I just want to see the totals of what I'm working with before I start narrowing it down.
Mm-hmm.
So 3,300 properties that I'm working with in this radius sounds great. If I wanted to, I could take off condos if I just wanted to be working with certain property types. Something that they did in here, which I appreciate, is they categorized everything. So before it was just this super long list where like cemetery was with dairy and it was with, vacant land and all, it was just all a mess. So now you can just kind of go into the drop down for residential and you have all of these different options just for residential. And then you can come into here and you have all these different options all for agricultural. So I like that they put them in nice organized little folders. And if you want to do all residential options, you hit residential and that whole checkbox comes in there.
Mhm.
So unclick that. I will just go back to what I had. There it is. Okay, cool. So when you're on the farm and you're on these filters, so now that I had my full count, I got my count. Now I want to play around with the filters and I want to like make some adjustments. So right here, you can always click into other available fields for a little bit more. So this can, you can say, I wanted to only pull homes that have garages or carports, that only have water views or golf course views, ones that only have pools. So you can get really specific there. When you go over to general, you also have a ton of other fields. So it's going to look like this at first, but if you open that up, you can start searching by subdivision or, the mailing state, or if they're like, living in town or out of town. You can even filter by owner occupied versus non-owner occupied. So any of the filters that are in this black font up here in these tabs, those are all free. Remember I was telling you there's a lot of free information on here? That's all the free stuff. You're only paying for things when you get into this tab, the Premier Data. So just in the free tabs, you have all this general information with the area. This is more getting into the property characteristics. And then it gets a little deeper and a little deeper and a little deeper as you go to the right. So assessment and taxes. So now you can kind of filter by these different things. So you can filter by purchase price. I only want to pull homes that have at least a $400,000 purchase price. So I'm not wasting my time with the small fries. You can go by assessment. You can say the assessed land or the assessed value of the home. Again, we have other available fields. We only have one, but it's the market value. So that's under assessment and taxes. Then we have other. So other is going to be like very like specific codes, like the APN numbers and mail carrier routes. So you might be wondering, like, why would I ever need a mail carrier route? The mail carrier route is what we use when we're going through statistics, which I am going to show you in a minute. So under statistics, you would be able to pull by mail carrier route and see the turnover rate in each of those mail carrier routes. So that's why they have that field over here on the farming side. Then custom filters. So custom filters are kind of cool. They have some really interesting ones, like an empty nester filter. So the empty nester filter, they actually use a pretty egregious assumption that if someone has owned their home for 30 years or more and they have 3+ bedrooms, more likely than not, they are an empty nester. That's a lot of space and a lot of ownership history. So you're not going to get a ton of results with the empty nester, but you will get some. So if we turn that one on, so as soon as you turn a filter on, it's going to show up in my filter summary down here. So remember, if you're ever wondering what filters do I have put on right now, you can always look at the bottom in the shadow area right here, and it'll tell you which ones are in there. So right now we're working with this radius that we can view. We're in the state of Florida, these property types, and empty nester. So I'm going to get count. Remember, green means go. So I'm going to press the green button to move forward. So out of my, what was the total again? It was like
3,000 or something?
Yeah, it was like around 3,300. So now almost 300 of those are considered empty nesters. That's actually more than I was anticipating. That's a lot. So we've already pressed this one to get the total. Now we're going to press this green button to download or view our records that we just pulled. So now these are all the people who are considered empty nesters. Some of them won't have like the year it was sold or bought, but it usually will have purchase price. And either way, these people are sitting on a ton of equity, or they've been in these places for a super long time. Maybe they don't know. I mean, this one alone, that's in the sanctuary. They bought
Mhm.
they bought in the sanctuary for $51,000.
Wow.
They could literally make $1 million right now, at least.
Yeah.
Do they know
Wow.
that? You know what I mean? So like, and you don't know maybe what some of these are probably close to, you know, going into probate, or there's a trust or a will that needs to be navigated. So you can really come into these situations and be their hero if you understand how to approach these. So that's a really great way to kind of just pull a quick empty nester. So let's say I was looking at this and I was like, all right, empty nester is cool and everything, but I think I want to adjust my filters. So if I were to just press X and remove it, it's just going to remove it and I'm going to stay right here on the screen. If I want to edit my search, I just have to press this right here, edit search, and now it brings me back to my filters for the farming. And I can still take this off over here. So I removed empty nester, but I want to go back to custom filters because I want to show you another really cool one that you can get for free. So on here as well is this one called Next Seller. So Next Seller, and it does tell you what it is, but let me explain. So in statistics, we learned about a bell curve graph, the one that goes up and then it comes back down, right? So the bell curve, what this is saying is it's pulling from a bell curve of 8 to 15 year range. And that's the average that people stay in their homes, right? Once they purchase. So out of that 8 to 15 year range, what was the top year that there were transfers of ownership? And I say transfers of ownership because it can be a sale, but it can also be probate. It could also be divorce. It could also be, you know, a refinance. So all these different kinds of transfers of ownership fall under this umbrella. And what was the top year that there were those transfers of ownership? And then it shows plus or minus 1 year from that top. So under these results, we're going to get a 3-year range, and it's just going to be that top year that there were transfers of ownership, and then minus 1 year and plus 1 year. So I'm going to turn that on and show you what I'm talking about. Get the count. A good amount of properties in there. So download view records. And now here's what I got. So this one, I can go in a lot of different directions with this next seller. So 2013, I don't want to age myself, but 2013 is when I graduated high school. So for me, having graduated high school in that year, like my parents are very well into being empty nesters, but like, what if these people didn't sell at the time and maybe they're ready right now? Even if their children were like 5 years old when they bought that house in 2013, their kids are going to be graduating high school right now. So a lot of these people are also in a position to be empty nesters, most likely. Another way of going about it is with the equity that we've been talking about. I mean, just look at this. Well, this is a realtor, so don't reach out to her. But but she, you know, she bought her home for $82,000. You know, you have this one down here for 75. I mean, even these ones that are in the 200s, anybody in the 200s is sitting on a good amount of equity, depending on the square footage. You know the deal. But now you get to see between 2012, 2013, and 2014, we had a lot of transfers of ownership in this area. You can also filter. So let me go over to the right, and I'm going to click the top of the occupied by. So now it's putting it in order based off of that category. And I can see that also reflected in the colors here. So now all of the non-owner occupied, remember, take it with a grain of salt. Quote, quote, quote. All of the non-owner occupied are here at the top. So I can get an idea of like the amount of investors in this area. And I can either reach out to those people, you know, really get an idea of like who's in the state and who's not. And I'll tell you, if I know you're not a door knocker, but if you're in that area anyway, something that was suggested to us, you can totally take it. You cannot, it's just a suggestion. If you get this list and you see these people are out of state and you're driving by that house anyway, taking pictures of the outside of the house, you know, the AC compressor, the front door, like anywhere that you can get a picture without trespassing, text them the pictures and just say, hey, I was in the area. I have a listing nearby. I just wanted you to know that I was, you know, driving by your property, just wanted you to get some pictures. Everything's doing well. If you wanted me to keep an eye on things, or if you were looking to sell, I can absolutely help you. I just got a contract on a house nearby for top dollar.
Mm-hmm.
So just another little way to touch people, and hopefully get a listing. So that is just kind of playing around with the filters with a radius search. Do you have any questions before I do a boundary search?
No
Okay.
questions.
All right, so remember we clear search. So I'm starting over from scratch. Now I'm gonna do a boundary search for my address. Oh, there we go. So in this area, it's very specific. There's like little pockets of the good neighborhood and little pockets of bad. You know this area because it's exactly where you just sold. Kamira, she had the eggplant house, the purple house.
Oh, okay.
I love it. The eggplant house.
Nice.
That's what I always called it. You know,
Oh my
Ramona,
gosh.
when I was buying my house almost 3 years ago, my stepdad, he came into the neighborhood and he's like, Rose, that house, like, are you not worried about your property value with the house? I'm like, don't worry about that house. I have a feeling that that house is going to get flipped within the next couple of years. And look at it now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was
Beautiful.
just such a story with the house. Oh my gosh, so interesting.
I know you mentioned that like you had sold it before, but then this was like the second time, right?
Yeah. Well, I helped the lady. There was an older lady living there, and oh my, the way, it's a long story, but to make it short, she
Yeah, you have
had
to
one of the investment companies reaching out to her saying, "Hey, we want to buy your house cash." And she knew she was really old. She couldn't keep up with the house. She had a major issues with the house. She wasn't keeping it up, and she had some plumbing, like her plumbing was redone and it was very expensive. She didn't have the money to pay. So they put a lien on her property. So she was kind of, in a
Yeah,
bad, rough situation.
she needed to sell.
But companies like that reaching out, it's like, hey, I want to buy your house cash, we'll just buy it the way it is. We know it needs work. And she kind of like, told me about it. And I said, well, these companies, just make sure, just be careful, because a lot of companies like that will scam you. I mean, they will just pay nothing for it.
Right,
And I
yeah.
told her, make sure you don't sign anything until you find out what a number. Don't, because I don't want anybody to take advantage of you, because she's really old. She does not know that.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. She called me. She go, oh, no. Like, she was so against it, because I said, I can help you, whatever you need. She go, oh, no. Like, she was kind of like, shut down. No, I want to get rid of it and stuff like that. And then she called me and saying that the company was giving her $1,000 for their house. $1,000. I even said, do you mean like 100,000? She goes, no. They said they're gonna give me $1,000 for the property. And I'm like, wait, what? I couldn't like believe it. And she goes, well, they said they're gonna pay off my mortgage. She had some mortgage. It was not a lot.
Not nearly that much.
And she had the lien. Obviously, they're gonna pay off her lien and mortgage, and then give her $1,000 in her pocket to walk away, which you can't even find rental. I had to find her a rental in a really short time, and there's nothing for $1,000. So
No. Oh,
yeah,
that poor woman. I can't stand people that, try to take advantage of the elderly. I
yeah,
mean, what are you doing? Who raised you?
yeah.
I'm telling
Oh
you.
God, we
Oh,
see so much,
ugly. It's ugly, ugly, ugly. Well, I hope she's okay now.
She is, yeah, she's fine.
Good. Good. I'm glad to hear
Good.
it. So anyway, you do know the area.
Yeah.
You know the challenges that come with this area. And we don't want to be east of Fisk, because that's a lot of rental properties and a lot of low income. There's actually this like weird pocket of like new construction right here. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So that we maybe could explore. But for right now, just for the sake of my example, I'm going to draw a boundary that makes sense to me. So I'm going to go from Barnes and I'm going to pull it up, to 520. And I'm going to drop it here. And now you see I have a shadowed area that's pulling over. So if I wanted to, I could go up into the corner, but you see how the shadowed area kind of goes onto the north side of 520. So if I wanted to follow the road, I just have to drop the pin at the points where it curves. So drop one here, and drop one here. And now I followed the curve of the road. Nice and perfect. Same thing when I come down here, but over here it matters less because this is just like preserve area. It's not like I'm overlapping into any homes. So I am just going to drop it right here. And when I want to close my boundary, I just double click. And now we have our same green buttons to move us forward, get the count to see our totals before we narrow it down. And we have some decent totals in here. So I want to show you something. So we were looking at all of these free filters, which is great. I just want to show you what you have available in the paid area. So on Premier Data, we have mortgage info. So you have a lot of mortgage filters. Like I said, if you have a preferred lender, you want to have them jump on here and you can kind of work together on stuff, more than welcome to. We also have a leads tab. So this is where like the life events, the big stuff comes in. And you have this kind of a list. So bankruptcy, cash buyers, divorce, liens, Liz pendants, notice of default. Here's a full price list for all of the different types of leads. They're very inexpensive. This is per record, so it'll be per address for that. I mean, Liz pendants, where they're like literally knocking on foreclosure, is only 5 cents a record. And then that's just going to be for the address information and the owner information, like all of the results that we were just seeing for free. That's what you're paying for this record. If you wanted to buy this, get these leads, but then also get phones and emails, you would have to add one of them here. So let's say I wanted to get divorce. Data filing, we don't want on because that's just going to give us one date. We want to do last X amount of months. So I'll do the last 12 months. So now it's saying divorces, type of lead, divorced, filed within the last 12 months. I get the count. I have 6 properties in this boundary that are eligible for that. It's $3 for those 6 properties. If I paid right now, it's just going to give me that information that we saw before, the address, when they bought it, what their name is, the square footage, those simple things. And if it's owner or non-owner occupied. If I wanted to get phones and emails, all I have to do is come over into the phones and emails tab. And then I can just do phones, just do emails, or both. You said you don't like calling. So if it was just emails, get the count. So now for 6 properties with divorce records, it's $3.42, including their emails. And if there is a phone or email not found, you will be refunded for that. So this is the grand total, and you could get a little bit of money back after that if they don't have an email record.
And that would be the most accurate information of
It'll be the most
emails and phone
updated.
number. Yeah.
I can't say it'll be the most accurate, unfortunately. They can only go by what's been most recently recorded. So if the address, I'm sorry, if the email address or the phone number hasn't been updated in the property appraiser site or the clerk of courts recently, then it's gonna maybe be old. But at the very least, you will have that owner name that you can do a little bit further research. If they've gotten a new email address or a new phone number, you can at least look into it with that. So let's say like you wanted to really like pay for a big list and you pulled like 200 records, right? You paid for 200 email addresses. And let's say like 20 of them didn't work, like 20 of them got bounced back to you. You can send me that list of those 20 that got bounced back to you, and I can do my very best to get you a refund on those, and I probably can do it. They're very gracious about giving refunds for faulty information. So if it's a big chunk like that, if it's 1 or 2 email addresses, it's literally 7 cents that you're
Give me
wasting.
my 7 cents back.
Yeah, it's like, right. I mean, it's like 7 cents per email. So if it's a 1 or 2, it's like, you know, whatever, leave it be. But if it's a big chunk, like 20 or more, then let me know about it and I can get you a refund.
Yeah.
So really quick, let's take off our filters. Let's go back to kind of where we were before. I don't want emails. I don't want divorce. I'm just back to my basic. Here's my my boundary, right? In the state of Florida, these property types. Getting the count, so it's going to give me my totals again. I want to show you something pretty cool. So let's download view records with no filters on there at all. Now you saw me go into the leads tab and I searched for the divorces specifically. But what if I wanted to get just a general scope of what kind of big lead problems were going on in that area with these homeowners? If I come into here with no filters, I can put filters on, but I want to pull this from a really big list, from as big of a list as I possibly can. So I'm going to hit, now this is where this is a money button. This isn't the green means go. This is the green means money right now. So I'm going to hit green, and it's going to give me my big money things. So right now, out of these 3,700 properties, 39 of them have liens. 15 of them have Liz pendants. 6 with notices fault. So you're looking at this with me. This is a valuable list right here. Right? So now you can really get a full scope. So we saw that we had the 6 divorces, but maybe I wouldn't buy divorces because I have 39 liens that I could go ahead and purchase and let these people know that, like, hey, a lot of people don't even know that they have a lien. And then they go to sell their home and they're like, what? I have a lien that I have to pay off and it's $10,000. Oh my gosh. So you can kind of, again, be their hero and come in and tell them, like, hey, I don't know if you were looking at selling your home anytime soon. Hey, by the way, you have a ton of equity. You probably should sell your home sometime soon. But before you do that, let me help you take care of this lien. Here's the information about it. Da, 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 da. Same thing with the Liz pendants. Like, hey guys, I know you're kind of knocking on foreclosure. You're really close. You're almost there. Can I help you? Let's help you save your home. So you can just press buy on any of these that you want to purchase, and it brings you back to the filter page. Because right now, if you just do it like this, it's only going to be the address information. I have to go into Premier Data, into phones and emails, and add the emails before I purchase if I want them. If I didn't want them, then you don't have to do that part. You could just buy. But if you wanted the email addresses, you would have to come in here to this tab and add them first. So once I get the count, let's just look at the price for that. 16 properties. I mean, are you kidding right now? 16 properties with emails is $1.92. It's really breaking the bank here, Romina.
Yeah.
So when you press pay now, it's going to pop up this wallet. So this is the wallet that you access also through, I'll show you later. It's like a tab up in the upper right. So you would put your credit card information in here, but it's going to ask for a minimum purchase from your credit card by $5 or more. So you just upload that amount onto your wallet that's on the website. And then it just takes those pieces from there when you purchase small lists like this, because it's not going to want to charge your card for $1.92, you know? So, yeah, just put that $5 and it'll never like automatically charge you for anything. It'll never automatically upload more money, unless you tell it to. So everything is super manual on here. You never have to worry about any automatic charges or anything like that. And you can put as much as you want. You put like $200 on here and then you don't have to worry about it for a while. All right. So that was purchasing that list. Let's go back out here. So if I wanted to come back to this, I was working on this list, but I, need to go do a showing or whatever. I have something going on. Remember we were talking about the saved farms tab and how important that is because it will keep this fresh and updated every week. So this is where you would save the farm. So you save the farm, you name it, and you save it to your account. And as you can see, I can save this to your account. So if you're ever out and about and you're like leaving a listing appointment, you're like so chomping at the bit to try to get some information about this area before you leave, you can just say, hey, Rose, can you run this farm for me really quick? Put on the next seller filter and save it in my account for me based off of this address. No problem. Save it to your account, donezo, and it's waiting for you there when you're ready. Then under save/share, this is where you can save the query. So that's where you would save searches. So you're saving this search criteria based off of the boundary and this property type that you can go back to later, not the farm itself, but the search criteria. If you wanted to export it, you still can do that. You can export it as a CSV, as a farm, and it comes out as a Excel spreadsheet. So you can always export it and kind of use it alongside like RPR or any other kind of lead sources that you're already using. You can actually print your Avery labels straight from here. It makes them for you nice and clean. This button's really cool. So you're very technologically savvy, so I'll share this with you. You have to purchase the phones and emails to be able to use this button. But once you do, what you can do is you actually get to set a paid ad on Facebook based off of this farm.
Mhm.
Isn't that cool? Both of you, yeah. So yeah, that's a really, really cool feature. So you're able to really target an exact list with exactly what you wanted. So you have a target of like, you know, people with equity, and you're going to push that equity post that we were talking about with that shareable calculator. I'm going to boost that post, but not just to my entire audience. I'm going to boost it to this audience that really has a chance of responding to it.
Mhm.
Just a very cool feature I think they added on there.
Mhm.
So we're looking at stuff. I know we talked about turnover rate, but we haven't seen anything about turnover rate. Where's the turnover rate? So if you're looking at a farm and you're going from the farming tab, there's always going to be a button kind of around that says dynamic stats. You have it right here on the end screen of our farm results. And I also have it, if I press edit search and go back to my farming filters, I also have it down here. If I press get count, before I download view records, if I look over here, I have another dynamic stats button. Okay, so let's take a look at that. It might be a little bit too big of an area. It's going to take a second because it's such a big area that we're pulling from. But what this is going to show us is our turnover rate. And this is just a really cursory kind of look at it. Oh, nice. It is going to give it to us. So it gives us our highs, it gives us our lows, it gives us our averages. And then we get to see all of these ratios. So the amount of sales out of the number of homes equals this turnover rate. So you can always get an idea of how this breaks down, this percentage, by this fraction. So 138 over 3754 equals 3.68%. Then you also get average price. And then when you come down here, this part's really cool too. You get the buyer side. So the loans, the amount of loans recorded in that month and year, and then the amount of sales recorded in that month and year. Ooh, we got a big spike. Seriously, 2023. But you get to see the trends of the area, which is great. So
Mhm.
maybe for something like this, that's not the greatest turnover rate because the national average is 4%. So we're looking for anything really over 4%. This one's under. So would you take the time to really farm this area? Maybe not in like such a general sense, but now I want to narrow it down. Like, all right, I'm seeing that this huge area is not great with the turnover rate, but what if there's a good pocket? What if there's a really good pocket? So let's take a look at that. Let's go into that side of things and do a little bit of research into the turnover rate. So I'm done with this farm. I'm going to clear my search. And now let's look into statistics. That's what now I'm curious about the turnover rate in these little pockets of this main area that I was looking at, this really big general area. So under statistics, we have very familiar searches right here. So we have radius search, boundary search, and area search. I didn't really go over the area search in farming, but it literally is this. It just picks up the farming tab and you can just manually put in information. So this is where you would put like, you know, if you wanted to put Indialantic, excuse me, and 32903, select that. I could do the whole zip code for that area in Indialantic, or let's say I was hosting an open house at Tracy's house. I could say site address contains. I don't want it to say is. I want it to say contains Atlantic. And now if I get the count, it's going to be 69 property or 63. Download view records. And now it's only going to be Tracy Street that got pulled. So that's kind of why how the manual works and why that can be useful. So that was just a really quick example under the farming area search, but that's it. Okay. Now back to statistics. So we have radius search, we have boundary search, and we have area search. So I'm going to do this boundary search literally based off of the same area that we were just looking at. That I was like, oh my gosh, this 3.68% is not what I want. But let me look a little bit more specifically at what kind of options I have within the area. So I'm going to draw the same boundary. Drop. drop, pull it down and double click. So this time I'm not going to get the count because I am on the statistics side and not on the farming side. I'm going to add my filters. So our filters look a little different here. We don't have all these categories at the top. We're a little bit limited on what we can filter. So right now this is all locked because I'm using that boundary that I'm basing it off of. I am pulling single family residence and condos. So I'm probably going to take off condos. And then area type. So it defaults to property tract. This is where we're going to use our mail carrier route. So carrier route is right here. That's what we're comfortable using. If you want to use carrier route, census tract, or property tract, those are like the top 3 as far as getting good search results. But we like to use mail carrier route. But go for it. The world is your oyster. So you can also set limitations over here. You can say you want a minimum average sales price or a minimum turnover rate, but let's just kind of see a full scope of everything. So we have 9 records, but this isn't 9 properties. This is 9 mail carrier routes that we're pulling. So if you look right here, you can always see the mail carrier code is always the zip code followed by a letter and 3 numbers. So that is how you kind of break down the carrier codes. And now we have our turnover rates right here. And it's in order it's descending from highest to lowest as far as the turnover rate. And we have some pretty cool information that we get to look at here. So let's break this down a little bit. Whoa, mama, with that average price.
Wow.
Whoa, mama, with that turnover rate. But look at the totals that we're looking at. We're not really working with a big pool of properties here, are we? So is this really the area that I want to farm? Probably not. It's also showing that it's within this it's either a golf course or something else. It's maybe not in the area that I was pulling and I messed up my boundary a little bit. So I'm just going to ignore number 1. It doesn't have the ratios that I'm looking for. This is all bright and shiny and everything, having an 18% turnover rate with an average sales price of $10 million. But is it realistic? Probably not.
Yeah. That's the Adelaide neighborhood.
Probably, yeah. So something like this, I really think it's land actually based off of where it's showing right here. I think it's undeveloped land that's like showing the full developer's price that he paid for the land. Anyway, going to the next one. This one's a little bit more realistic. I could definitely work with this. And it looks like it's around Levitt Park, right? So I have a good average. It's not great. It is over the average though. That it's over that 4%. So I'm still in a good area. And I can look at my ratios. Okay, I'm working with a decent pool of totals here, right? In these first 2, because we have the same turnover rate right here. So I'm comfortable using both of these. And then we have a good average price. You know, maybe I want to go with the one that's a little bit higher. And we have average years owned. These people are owning their homes for an average of 11 and a half years. And it also gives us non-owner occupied ratio. That's what that is. So the non-owner occupied ratio for these areas, this one's a little bit lower, but this one we have a little bit more investors. So that's looking good. So once I kind of look into what I have available to me in this boundary, then I can kind of go in here and say, all right, this is the one, number 2 is the one for me. So I hit my gear right here and I can press select. And now I'm on the filters for the farming. So I basically just showed you step 1. So step 1 is going into statistics, looking at a big area and trying to narrow it down into what makes the most sense for you to spend your time and your money. So I just picked my mail carrier route and I can see down here before I add any other filters, it's working off of my mail carrier route. So see site carrier route, and that is our carrier code. And now I could say, all right, custom filters. Well, yeah, it was something like 600 something was the total. So if I do next seller filter, turn that on, get the count. Yes, I do want to search with my existing boundary. I have 34 properties. So within those like 600 something, 34 of them are considered the next seller as far as the average years owned, and they're probably eligible for, relocation at this point in their lives. All right, so that's the statistics side. If you want to go back, so let's say I wanted to use this, I download view my records, and I'm on the farming side. I'm looking, I'm, seeing the average prices, how much equity they have, what the years are looking like. I'm seeing the average, owner occupied versus non-owner occupied, get an idea of everything. And you know what? Maybe I'm not super jazzed about it. I want to go back to my statistics and see what my results are. And I want to maybe use another one of those mail carrier routes. I don't want to use this one. So you just hit back to stat results. And now it brings you back to your mail carrier routes, and you can select another one. Or you could have saved that one and then come back here if you wanted to work on that one later, but you wanted to come back here and work off of another list for now. You have all these options of how to save things and go back to it. And it's pretty easy to navigate, like once you spend a little bit of time on here. So I do hope you practice. Don't let it go too long before you get on here. Do it while it's fresh. And I will give you the recording. The last thing I really want to show you. So did you have any questions about statistics? It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
Perfect.
it's pretty.
Okay, so based off of this address, I just want to show you how quickly you can get this incredible report put together for you. So I still have your address put in here. I'm just going to hit profile with comps. It's asking me if I want to make any adjustments to the comps that it's pulling. This is a bit far out, so I'm going to pull it back into 12. We've got a distance of a mile, plus or minus 1 bath, plus or minus 1 bedroom. Year built any, or it could be the same year, plus or minus 5 years. And then the square footage is plus or minus 20% of the square footage. So if you made adjustments here, you update the results first, and then you'll hit generate profile. Oh, I didn't update the results. Oh, well, that's fine. So it's putting together quite a few pages. So just give it a second. All right, so click here to view your report. It opens as a Adobe PDF. No, that is not the house, but it's a cute house, and it's at the top of every report, and it's gonna have to just be okay. At least it's a nice looking house. But at the very top, it does give the owner information. That will obviously have your name and contact info on it. But then when you start scrolling down, I mean, you have everything in here. You have the owner information with all the property characteristics, any loan recordings, and that's the most recent sale and loan. So if they had a refinance at any point, it will show that. Assessment and tax information. It gives you an aerial view of the home, any title changes, subdivision information, mortgage records with the amortization schedule, because everyone loves looking at that. And then you have comps that it put together for you. So based off of those criteria that we were pulling, these are the comps. We have 7 of them. And this is just a summary. And obviously the first one is going to be the closest with the most in common with the property. And once you scroll down, it opens them up. So this number 1 is this number 1 that we were just looking at. So it opens it up and gives a little bit more information about why it pulled it as a comp. So you have your list of 7 comps right here, an area sales analysis. You have a map for the nearby neighbors. Remember, we were looking at that at the very beginning. So if you wanted to, you could pull this report and then you could view all those records for the nearby neighbors. There is a link to that in here. Same thing with the next sellers, the thing with the bell curve graph. That is also a link here. And then a liability page at the bottom. But all of that this whole package was just put together with like 2 clicks of a button. You kidding me right now? It's pretty amazing. And I will say this, I'll leave you with this. We have a client that printed one of these for a home in her own neighborhood. It was a neighbor of hers. And she put that in the neighbor's mailbox and said, hey, not trying to hard sell you at all. I'm not sure you're aware of the amount of equity that you're sitting on. Just take a look at this and let me know if you want to have a conversation. She ended up getting the listing like 2 days later. So it works. We have proof that it works. So yeah, that's Title Toolbox. Did you have any questions? Did you want me to do any other examples? Or do you want me
No, I mean, it's pretty awesome. I'm really glad you kind of pushed me to do this. Yeah, no, it's really good. I definitely looking forward to try it. It's
Awesome.
yeah, it's really nice. I like it.
Okay, so